Hey, everybody.
Hi,
How's it going?
great.
We're not live yet, right?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
All right.
Okay, we are live.
All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to our first meeting of April. And we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, so let's get going.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, April 6, 2021 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Delury,
Present.
Councilmember Mandel,
Present.
Councilmember Treston,
You're
Okay.
muted.
Present.
Vice President McGinnis,
Present.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of Acting City Manager Ron Walsh and Deputy Corporation Counsel Richard Barrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
All right. How about Councilwoman Treston? Would you lead us, please?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the
The
flag
flag
of
of
the United States of America and to the
to the
republic
republic for
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
All right. Thank you. So why don't we start with our city manager's report?
All right. So I think we're going to start with Robert Spolenzino, I guess, right? For the start.
Spolzino.
Spolzino. Doing the best I can here, John.
That's okay.
Rob, you ready?
So I'm here. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm here.
No, we can hear you though, so go right ahead.
Okay. So before you tonight are two settlement agreements, and we're asking you to authorize the city manager to execute these agreements on behalf of the city. These agreements, which are basically two sides of the same coin, will resolve the lawsuit by iStar against the city of Long Beach. iStar, if you'll recall, developer of the Superblock, or at least was the developer of the Superblock, sued the city in 2018 for $105 million, alleging that the city had breached its agreement in settlement of a prior lawsuit, largely because it failed to assist iStar in obtaining the approval of the Nassau County IDA for its project. We moved to dismiss that lawsuit. The matter was fully submitted to the court sometime in 2018, but we've been talking about resolution all of this time, and the court, it's before Justice DeStefano in the Supreme Court in Nassau County, has held the matter in abeyance while we have tried to resolve the matter. And the reason we've been able to resolve the matter is that iStar has apparently reached an agreement to sell the property to Engel Burman. And the second part of this agreement, the other side of this coin, is an agreement with Engel Burman. So let me explain what both of them do. The agreement with iStar will drop the lawsuit. iStar will drop its lawsuit against the city and all of its claims. The only thing it gets out of it is the ability to transfer to Engel Burman or to some subsequent developer if the Engel Burman deal falls through, a credit in the amount of $2.5 million toward building department fees, which is the amount that iStar prepaid for those fees years ago, I think in 2011. What happened was, at the time of that settlement, Engel Burman, iStar made made a payment of $5 million. 2.5 million of that was expressly dedicated to the prepayment of building department fees. Under this agreement, Engel Burman would be entitled to that credit if it closes its purchase of the property with iStar. If the Engel Burman contract doesn't close, then a subsequent purchaser from iStar would be entitled to the same credit, provided that its proposal, like the Engel Burman proposal, does not involve any use or height or bulk variances for the property. So that's the proposed resolution with iStar. On the other side, the city has negotiated an agreement with Engel Burman, under which Engel Burman will do approximately $3 million in off-site repairs to the city's water and sewer system as a condition of its building permit. In addition, Engel Burman will pay the city $425,000 for its relief from the requirement of the Nassau County Code to have, I think it's 8-inch stormwater lines. And the city's engineers have approved the stormwater lines that Engel Burman has proposed. What Engel Burman gets out of the agreement is the $2.5 million credit that iStar paid for in 2011. So that's the agreement with Engel Burman. I'm told that Engel Burman is ready to go to begin building the project. There's still closings and those kinds of technicalities that have to occur between iStar and Engel Burman once these agreements are executed and this lawsuit is behind everybody. So the estimate is 3 to 4 months before you'll see a shovel in the ground. But this would, if the council approves these agreements, this will resolve the iStar lawsuit and in a way that allows Engel Burman to build.
John, if the council has any questions?
Well, we're gonna have a, well, I'll tell you what, since the taxpayers are paying for Bob's time, even though we're in the middle of the city manager's report, Dave, can we just move item 5 and 6 up to now so we don't have to keep Dave on the line? Bob on the line unnecessarily to wait till we get to those points. And then we'll just continue on with the city manager's report after we take care of these items.
Sure. Okay, so item 5, we're going to jump ahead in the calendar, folks. So we're going to start with item number 5, which is a resolution authorizing a settlement agreement between iStar FM Loans LLC and Shore Road Long Beach Superblock LLC and the city of Long Beach.
Okay, so we just heard from Bob what that is. I just want to reiterate something that I think if there is one thing people take away from what Bob just went through, a kind of a timeline legal explanation, what happened, if there is one takeaway, is the $100 million lawsuit against the city goes away when this is, if this passes. So right now, potentially every man, woman, and child in this city is on the hook with a $100 million lawsuit for $3,000. Every man, woman, and child in this city is what the liability to each individual in the city would be if this lawsuit went against us. That goes away if this passes at no cost to the taxpayers. So that's an important takeaway everybody should need to know. Bob did a great job for us on this, and we are potentially dodging a major bullet here. So any questions from any of the council members? Okay, seeing none. Dave, we got any from the public?
Yes, we do. Roy Lester.
Okay.
Roy, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I don't understand why we can't see the agreement. You know, you're asking us to put in, some sort of feedback on something and we can't see the agreement. We have no idea what these agreements say. And it has the words, of course, according to such terms and conditions as may be necessary to effectuate settlement of this action, which really means nothing. Now, I don't understand how we have to give back the $2.5 million. The way I look at it,
So Roy, I'm going to stop you. We're not giving back $2.5 million. So let me just clarify, so you don't go down the path unnecessarily. iStar prepaid the city money towards the project. What we are doing is we are giving credit for the money iStar prepaid, if this passes, to Engel Burman. So we're not giving anything back.
Yes, John, we have the money. It was released in escrow years ago to the city. So we have the money. We charge for building permits, okay? It's $7 per thousand. This was a $360 million project. That's at least 1.5 or something million worth of building permit money, which we charge for according to our code. So for some reason, we're not charging, even though a building permit was granted.
Okay, you still seem to be missing the point. We are transferring the fees that were paid for the building permit to the new owner. That's what we are doing. There is no reason to charge for the same building permit twice.
It's not the same building permit, John. It's nowhere near the same building permit because there are no variances. It's a different building permit. Now, I don't understand why we gave them the building permit. If I started to build a house and I paid for a building permit and I said, oh, I'm not going to build the house, guess what? I don't get my money back. Not for the permit. This is just building permit money and other costs. If you read the stipulation, it had to do with other costs too.
All right. So let me see if I understand correctly. You want us to potentially lose $100 million lawsuit to collect several $100,000 in building permit fees.
No, John, the idea of us losing a lawsuit, that particular lawsuit, everyone who has looked at it has said it's a ridiculous lawsuit. It's going nowhere. Okay. So every time somebody sues us, are we supposed to just fold? Are you going to go in front of everybody and say, hey, look, somebody just sued us for millions of dollars, so we better give them money?
I'll tell you what, Roy, when you're the city's lawyer and you have all the facts of the case in front of you, we will take legal advice from you, but we are taking legal advice from our lawyer.
And our lawyer says it's a viable case. He thinks it's worth settling this case for $2.5 million. Is that what you're telling me? That this particular
But you're implying that we're settling like we're losing something. We are not losing something. We are losing $100 million lawsuit is what we are losing. So every taxpayer in the city is now off the hook for $100 million.
Until the next.
And what we're doing is we are not paying back anything. Not only are we not paying back anything, but we are getting another $425,000 in fees from them.
Which we're entitled to anyway, John, and even more. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the square footage, we're entitled to even more.
Okay. Roy, you finish your 3 minutes. You're complaining for the sake of complaining right now.
No, John, I just don't like the idea of giving away $2.5 million. I don't like the idea of not being able to see an agreement. And John, it's not with you.
You will see the agreement once the agreement is approved.
It's done. So how can we ask questions on it? And John, it's not you. You know, I'm not coming after you on this, please. This is just, I'm looking at the money and I don't understand why we're giving back the money when we already earned it by giving those particular building permits.
Roy, I'm going to correct you again. We are not giving back anything. What you want us to do is you want us to double charge. We are not giving back a dime. In fact, we're getting even more money out of this. You are proposing us to double charge. That's not giving money back. You want to charge twice. That's fine. That is your opinion. You're entitled to give it to us. depending how this vote goes, we happen not to agree with that. We think it's reasonable, if this passes, to give Engel Burman credit for the several $1 million that iStar gave to the city and then never built. So we're just transferring it over.
That was the agreement that we had with iStar. We had an escrow agreement. They would turn over the money to us. If they disputed it, they had the right to dispute it. Did you look at the stipulation, the escrow agreement, John?
Right.
They had
That's
that
fine.
right. They didn't do it.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
As I often do, John. That's all
I
right.
know, that's fine.
And-
We're still gonna go
Yeah.
out and have a beer together when this is all over.
And that's your
You're
time.
So, all right, thanks, Roy.
All right.
All right, anyone else safe?
Yes, Kevin Heller.
Okay,
Kevin, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
yes, we
Go ahead.
can.
So, I think I'm a little bit confused. Hopefully you could clear it up for me. I didn't see in the resolution any reference to a $100 million lawsuit. You're saying this item number 5 and 6, if approved, would settle the Haberman lawsuit, or is that something different?
No, Haberman is an entirely different issue. It has nothing to do with this. This is, iStar sued the city in 2018, I believe it was, for $105 million for, they claim the city breached its agreement by not, and Bob, if I'm not saying it right, please correct me, but the city, through a community host agreement, was going to support their pilot application. They claim the city didn't support it well enough, as at least the iStar satisfaction. So they sued the city for $105 million. That lawsuit, if items 5 and 6 pass, goes away.
The parties have agreed to that.
Correct.
Okay. And I'm just in the I assume we're taking 5 and 6 together at this point.
Yes.
Okay, so
Well, we'll vote on them separately, but I mean,
Okay.
we'll do them in chronological order. Yeah.
So in item number 6.
No. We're only doing 5 right now.
Okay, fine. That's the only question I have on 5.
Yeah, you can come back for 6 and ask for 6.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
That's all we had for this item.
That's all we have for this? Okay, great. So,
All right.
yeah, all right, why don't we call it and then we'll go on to item 6.
Okay, so item number 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Engel Burman at the Beach LLC.
Okay, continuation. So the item 5 was the agreement with iStar. Now, item 6 is the agreement with Engel Burman, which is basically the same agreement, just saying now that we're giving Engel Burman the credit for what we're giving, saying iStar is not getting their money back in item 5, and we're giving Engel Burman credit for that money they're not getting back in item 6. So, any questions from the council? Okay, Dave?
Roy Lester.
Okay, there you go,
Ed,
Roy.
Roy.
You got 3 more minutes.
Wow. Okay, just the mathematics I don't quite understand. According to section 7-20B2, it's, I guess, $2 a square foot. Is that right, or is it 3? I heard it was 3, but it says in the code 2. John?
I don't have the code in front of me, so, and I don't think Scott
Which
Clemens
section,
on.
Mr. Lester?
7-20, the one reflected in the resolution. -20B2.
Okay.
It talks about the cost of the, the retainage, the on-site stormwater retainage requirement.
Yes,
Yeah. Is that $2 or $3?
just pulling up the latest one. You can move on. If you have another question,
So-
Mr. Lester, I'm going to look it up right now.
And Joe Fabrizio is hopping on here too, in case he might be of assistance.
Just so you know, it's $3.
Okay,
It is.
there you go.
Thank you, Joe. You're welcome.
And how many square feet do we have here?
I don't know, Joe, do you know the answer to that?
It's about 250 thousand.
I don't know offhand, but you could probably estimate it roughly.
Well, it's
I don't know offhand.
43,560 an acre times 6.046, I think, if I remember correctly, which comes out roughly to 250,000. At $3 a square foot, doesn't that come out to 750,000?
I don't know if there's anyone on the line that can answer you. Joe, can you?
Okay. It's a calculator.
I mean, but this is more the square footage is going to be much more in the building department's domain than DPW's domain at this stage of the game. So, you know, speaking in loose terms, when you're talking about litigation and other things, you might want to refrain.
No, I'm not talking about litigation. I'm just talking about the numbers. It says that they would be required to pay a fee of 425,000.
Yeah, but
Which
that also says notwithstanding any credits.
What credits are being applied?
Just whereas notwithstanding these credits is what it says. I guess they're talking about the credits above, which they're going to receive a credit, which shall be applied to its obligation under that section that you were asking for, which came up with the $3 a square foot calculation that Joe mentioned.
So what credits are they getting for 500? Well, for what, $325,000?
Well, earlier in the same agreement, it says, whereas those charges exceed the $2.5 million credit. So.
Yeah, it says the city will retain the balance.
Right.
John, if you don't know, you don't know. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, this is, unfortunately, this is more of a buildings department question. I don't know if anyone from the buildings department is on. Dave, is Dave Frazier on? Dave Frazier,
Yeah,
sorry.
I know
Scott
I'm on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is Scott Kemmons on by any
No,
chance?
no, he's not.
Okay.
All right. That's why I guess I just wish we would see the agreements before we vote on them. But, all right, whatever.
Okay.
John, I understand. If you don't know, you don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not going to make up an answer for you. I don't have the answer yet to your question.
Okay.
John, does a legal counsel have any comment on what Mr. Lester's saying?
So Mr. Lester, what's the question?
According to the code, they're supposed to, from what I just heard, it's $3 a square foot for this on-site water retention requirements. There are about 250,000 square feet in 6.0465 acres. Each acre has 43,560 square feet, something like that.
Right.
So I'm just not sure, because that would come out to about 750,000.
So the number seems lower is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, by about
Okay.
325,000.
Roy, are you talking about lot coverage or building coverage?
No, lot.
Well, lot, you're not building on the entire lot.
But the water goes through the entire lot, Mike. It's stormwater.
Yeah.
The stormwater doesn't just go on the building. When it rains on the entire lot.
So Roy, I don't think that you're going to be able to get a clear answer as to what you're looking for tonight. Rich, can we agree to get Mr. Lester the information that he's looking for to settle his curiosity, and so that he can go forward knowing that the city took the proper steps?
Sure, yes. What I can also say is that remember that this is just the amount for the stormwater retainage is part of the overall package, Mr. Lester. So it's also that Engel Burman is also performing substantial infrastructure work for the project, going from Broadway through Riverside all the way up north on the island.
Hey,
So-
Rick, they agreed to do that. Now, when you look at their application for the pilot, they didn't put in this $2.5 million credit. They put in that they were spending $3 to $4 million for the sewerage. This was all part of what IDA looked at. It was they're saying, hey, we have to spend this money. Now we're being told, well, you're getting 2.5 million. I don't think the IDA even knew they were getting the 2.5 million. But whatever.
And that's your
When you-
time, Mr. Lester.
You can just let me know.
So, and I'll just note, I'm channeling Donna here. Whatever answer we get to Mr. Lester will also be publicly stated at the next meeting.
Thank you, John.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Roy. And who's next, Dave?
Next is Kevin Heller.
Okay. Welcome back.
Hang on one second.
All right. There he is. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm just curious, I'm looking at the resolution and you've got 2.5 million you've already collected, 3 million in work that Engel Burman has agreed to do, roughly speaking, and 425,000 in fees. And I'm sorry, just bear with me 1 second. And I'm curious about the last whereas the city entered into a separate agreement memorialing these and other terms. So I'm curious if the other terms include waiver of what we would normally collect in building permit fees, and if so, how does that compare to the amount of money we're collecting as per this resolution?
I'm
Not entirely sure I understand the question, Mr. Heller. Could you just break it apart for me? I'm sorry. It's like a two-part question.
So I would say, okay, normally I would assume a builder comes in, they're going to build, they don't need this agreement. There's no lawsuit. They're just going to build. They have to pay some building permit fees.
Right.
Are we waiving those as part of this agreement? Because it says other terms.
Well, we're not waiving them. The agreement referenced in this item 6 is the item 5 we just heard.
So we will be collecting other building permit fees that we're normally entitled to.
So the idea is you get the $2.5 million credit as discussed, right? Then they do their $3 million infrastructure work. They pay us the water retainage fees that Mr. Lester mentioned. Engel Burman would also be reimbursing us for city staff and appearances and things like that. And yeah, and anything over that cap, they would be responsible for paying.
Right. If it was over
Okay.
2.5 million, they would pay the difference.
They would pay.
And,
So there's
and
no,
if it's less than 2.5 million, we keep it.
Right.
okay. I understand that. Thank you. I kind of have to just make a statement. I guess I agree with Roy that it seems it's hard to have any real input on these things or question these things when we don't actually get to read the agreement in advance. And I do think after the last meeting, it seemed to be agreed that these things would be put on the transparency portal so that we could see them. And I did look there. I didn't see it.
That's because they're put on the transparency portal after they're approved, because putting them there before they're approved, you don't put documents up that aren't approved. So approved documents are what goes up.
I mean, shouldn't it be put there a preliminary agreement for the public to comment on?
Mr. Heller?
Yeah.
This is Liz. Mr. Barrios, could you just clarify for Mr. Heller and others that are listening about putting documents up on the website?
Liz, can you speak a little closer to the?
Better? Better?
Yes.
Can you please clarify to Mr. Heller and to those listening about the agreements that they're not available to the public until they are approved by the city council?
Right. So typically, I think we talked about this a little bit last time, Mr. Heller. So this is with the firefighter MOA. So the reason we don't put it up publicly until it's ratified is because essentially if it's voted down, then it's completely changed. Or if we have to tweak something in the agreement, we'd have to bring it before the council again. So we usually wait till everything's ratified to get it up on the transparency portal.
Okay, so but the city council has each seen the agreement in its entirety at this point.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
When did I see this agreement, Rich?
I think I forwarded it to everyone via email over a week ago, I believe.
Yeah, things are not subject to the sunshine laws that are considered confidential and a matter of contractual negotiations until after they're approved, according to the sunshine laws.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. Dave, anyone else?
Yes, William Depper.
Okay. Welcome back, Mr. Depper.
Thank you. I don't know. It is confusing though, because I'm reading up on it, and it says that the city council voted to settle the city's lawsuits against iStar for 5.25 million. So I mean, if you're lowering it each year, settling it, I mean that's a great thing. Them paying out $100 million, or even 5.25.
Yes, it is, Mr. Depper. It's a great thing.
Yes. So, I mean, I don't know why people are arguing. They should just Google it. I put it in the chat and so many different stories come up. This I see coming back up to 2014, from 2014.
Yeah, this has been a long
Yes, so if you're
litigated
getting it lower,
process.
I mean, that's a great thing.
Yeah, this brings resolution to this once and for all. So,
Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. Dave, anyone else?
That was our last speaker.
Okay. So, all right. I guess then, Bob, I appreciate it. I don't think we need to keep you any longer.
Right, did you adopt the resolution?
That will come when we get to the voting.
Okay,
So, but the Q&A portion is over for this point. So I don't think we need you to stick around on the.
okay,
I'll shoot you a text, Bob.
great, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Nice seeing all of you. Bye.
I do have another hand that just went up.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, hey. Oh,
Oh.
he left. All right, Lo. Maybe we can get him back if we need him. All right. Who do we got?
Bill Notholt.
Okay.
You're not you're muted. Yeah.
I'm ready.
There you go. Hi, Bill.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. The agreement with Engel Burman. I'm wondering if this agreement includes the mandatory apprenticeship program that's listed in section 7-48 of the building code. If the program is indeed in the agreement, who and how will this program be administered?
I can answer that. Hey, Ms. Notholtz, it's Rich Barrios. There is no reference to that mandatory one because it's already in the code. So no, the short answer is no, it's not in the agreement.
Okay. The other item is I was going to ask for the members of the council to table the item until the agreement can be posted, but based on Mr. Walsh's comments, I don't think that'll ever happen. So I will not ask the council to table this item. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it'll be posted at once it's approved.
That doesn't help us see what's in the program if you approve it, the agreement after you approve it. But I understand the law. I'm not fighting the law.
Okay.
Just to throw it in there, and not to belabor the point, but the purpose of the sunshine laws is to let the public see the actions and what they were based on for the public officials is how they're working. The actual negotiations that are subject to confidentiality are not really subject to public scrutiny, because there are things in negotiations that if they got out into the public could ruin the ability to come to an agreement and could challenge that ability, plain and simple. So the agreement itself, until it's authorized, won't be put out in case it gets voted down. Each member of the council right now still has their independent judgment as to whether or not they're going to pass the particular resolutions for these agreements. So that's kind of the way it works.
Thank you.
And also, Mr. Notholt, the apprenticeship program legislation which you refer to is actually a Long Beach code that if it went to court, it would not hold. So therefore, it is not valid. But is that correct, Rich?
Well, so there's been some litigation regarding apprenticeship programs like this and mandatory apprenticeship programs. I think Oyster Bay just recently, about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, federal judge ruled against it. So we might have to take a look at our code.
But I have talked to various trade representatives, and they are in contact with Engel Burman and other elected officials to make sure that that this job is as union as it can be.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So thanks, Bill. Are we done, Dave?
That was it.
Okay, so now let's go back and go back to the city manager's report.
So the
which
next person we're going to call up is John Gross, if he's available to discuss the status of the Martin Luther King issues that we have. John, you're muted.
Good evening.
Good evening, John. Thank you.
The negotiations are still ongoing. We've conducted 6 sessions. The Martin Luther King Center is represented by Fred Brewington. We had initially put on the table a proposed set of terms and conditions for the lease. In a recent meeting, we are hopeful that with some modification, the possibility of closure on a lease may become more of a reality. It, in measure, depends on issues such as utilization of the building for not just MLK Center activities, but other activities. We're relatively hopeful that with some effort, we will bring the lease to closure. I really can't discuss anything further than that in public because obviously the lease negotiations are ongoing and it wouldn't be appropriate to discuss the terms. Certainly once a lease is struck, then the document would be available to
Exactly, John, to the exact same point as to the reason why we couldn't disclose the prior document in the prior discussion, is that it would impede our ability as a city to come up with fair negotiated contracts.
Yes, and certainly at the stage we're at, in contrast to the settlements that were just discussed of those pieces of litigation, we're still in the midst of negotiations.
Mr. Gross, I just want to clarify that you are negotiating with a nonprofit organization called Long Beach MLK Center, Inc., correct?
That's correct.
And you're negotiating for them to have a lease with the city-owned building called the MLK Center.
That's
correct. Okay, I would appeal to the board of the Long Beach MLK Center, Inc. to check with their lawyer to make sure that we can proceed with this lease, which is what we all need to do. You know, we have to, you know, a city has to have a lease for an organization to be in a building. So I hope we can work together. I'm not sure what the holdup is. Thank you.
If I may, it's a somewhat complex matter. I think you're aware that they've been in possession of the building before the year 2000, well before the year 2000. But I did want to add that the negotiations and the discussions with the organization have been very professional, very courteous, and not rancorous at all. It's just a matter of ultimately reaching a compromise on both parties' expectations.
Yes, and I think exactly agreed, Mr. Gross. And I also think that it's hard that they had to deal with different terms before this administration. This administration, says, well, we have a nonprofit in a building, we need a lease. So unfortunately, that's different from what they're used to. So I can empathize with the organization that they may be, not pleased that now all of a sudden now they're required to have a lease. But this administration has a responsibility to make sure we comply with the law.
Yeah,
so,
obviously I can't speak for the organization, but I can emphasize that I believe they understand that the goal of the city in obtaining a lease is appropriate. It's just truly a matter of working out the terms, which are somewhat complicated.
Right. Thank you for all your efforts on behalf of the city.
Yeah, it truly has been very cordial negotiations. Certainly, we've asserted the council's position, the city's position, as has Mr. Brewington for the organization. with some degree of elbow grease, I think we'll eventually get the deal done as soon as is possible.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? You're on mute, John.
I'm on mute.
No, not you, John.
No,
John
he was
Beck.
talking to me. I was asking if any.
Lots of Johns here. John. Got you all.
John Gross, this is Mike Delory. I just have one question. So any improvement work that may have been planned in the future at this location cannot be done until this lease is signed, correct?
Well, I think it's wiser that that not occur until we resolve the lease.
Correct.
So yeah, I think the answer to the question is yes, that would have to be on hold until we finish it. But there's certainly been some identification in the discussions of the need to do some improvements of the property. So that would be encompassed within the terms of the lease.
Right, and because I believe the lease has to be finalized first, and then any and all possible improvement work can then be started.
Sure, we don't want to interfere with the good work of the organization in the programs that they have for the community.
Right.
Certainly, your terrific director of community development, Monique Powell, also has plans for utilization of the building in concert with and also separately from the organization. We have to work out how that occurs. And obviously, it will be a lot easier to have the lease done so that before any renovations take place, that they can be phased accordingly, not to interfere with activities.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions for John?
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
All right. Here none. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks. Good night.
Good night, John. The next person I want to call is John McNally for his COVID report.
Evening all.
Oh, John.
Your
voice again. It's going nuts.
Better?
Nope.
Come back to me.
You completely overmodulated.
We will come back to him.
All right, so I'll then just give the portions of the city manager's report that I was going to speak on myself. There are going to be three of them tonight. The first one I want to talk about, or at least couch for everybody, is just the new law that was passed with regard to marijuana legalization in the state of New York. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the public as to what this actually means. So I want to try and give the city council and the members of the public that are listening an idea of the impact of the legalization. So right now, it is perfectly legal for somebody to smoke marijuana in their home and in public places where tobacco smoking is not prohibited. So with the exception of a vehicle, there is no legal consumption of marijuana that's permitted inside a vehicle. Section 1227 of the Vehicle and Traffic Law prohibits that. And for the driver of a vehicle, if they are found to be smoking marijuana, they could be subject for being arrested for 1192 subsection 4, which is driving while intoxicated drugs. So there's a drastic misconception by people that they can drive around smoking pot. You can't do that. And also, I would also let the city council know that they should probably amend for clarity purposes, although there is a section of New York State, I think it's Park and Recreations law, it might be public health law. I have the section written down here someplace that actually prohibits the use of marijuana in any place where tobacco products are prohibited. But I would say that the city council should consider passing a resolution that prohibits the consumption of marijuana or cannabis-derived products in any place where tobacco in the city is prohibited. So that would be in parks, within, I think you are 100 feet of a school building or a government building, as well as the Ocean Beach Park. So those are the types of areas where you might want to just give a level of clarity in the city ordinances as well. What is permitted right now is people to possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana inside their homes or on their person. Above that amount is a violation up to 5 pounds. When you get to 5 pounds, it becomes a criminal sanction. Eventually, you will be able to grow your own marijuana in your own yard at your own home, up to 3 mature plants and 3 immature plants per person, but in no event more than 12 plants, 6 mature, 6 immature, in any single home. Now that provision won't go into effect until after the legalization of dispensaries, adult consumption locations, has been finalized, which is anywhere from 18 to 24 months from now. So if we find people growing pot in their backyard right now, it is still not legal to do that, although it's a violation and not a crime right now. So depending on how many that they have, if they have 100 plants, I don't care who you are, you're getting arrested for that. You can't start your own marijuana growing facility in your backyard. So the interesting thing for law enforcement is that the marijuana used to be a justification for a crime being committed in a car. And for no longer are we permitted to just search a car, the entirety of a car, because it was drugs, because marijuana is being smoked in it. We are allowed to use the smell of marijuana to get us to pull a car over, and if we believe that the driver is under the influence of that, as well as to search the areas that are accessible to the driver in his immediate grasp, if you will. And we actually, on the very first day of this particular law coming into effect, had a man driving around the city who was smoking marijuana while he was driving in a car with no front plate and no back plate. And he had a suspended license and a revoked license. And he also had a plethora of other issues, and he was promptly placed under arrest, and we impounded his vehicle. So word to the wise, you still have to register your car, have a driver's license, and not use intoxicating drugs while you're operating a vehicle, because we're going to arrest you for that, because it's a safety hazard and it's against many provisions of different laws. That being said, the city is not allowed to pass any provision to inhibit people from smoking marijuana where they would otherwise be legally allowed to do so. Notwithstanding the fact that within the next 9 months, you have to either opt in or opt out or be automatically opted in to allowing locations within the city to sell marijuana as dispensaries. So the conversation is not really around ethics any longer. The ethics or the efficacy of smoking marijuana has been decided for us by the state legislature. They have said that it's legal for people to smoke marijuana. The question becomes, for the city council and for the residents, we know, generally speaking, that when marijuana is legalized across the country, there is an uptick in marijuana use in those states and in those localities where it's allowed. There's usually also an associated uptick in alcohol consumption, in other drug usage, most notably cocaine usage, and that there is an increase in the calls for services for medical emergencies, overdoses, and the like, as well as for police services. There are also in some locations around the country and some states in general that localized crime goes up, more street level type of crime, where you have public intoxication stuff, you have things where people are doing low level crimes like stealing things or breaking things, getting into arguments, and lower level crimes, but nonetheless the calls for service goes up. So generally speaking, it should be clear to everybody listening that whether or not the city allows the sale of marijuana to take place legally and in a controlled fashion in the city has nothing to do with whether or not marijuana will come here. Marijuana will come here. Marijuana will be used here. Marijuana will be grown here. And people will be allowed to give each other marijuana without charging for it any place that they want. You can't stop somebody from handing somebody marijuana in a public place unless they're under the age of 21 or it is more than the 3 ounces that is legally allowed to be carried outside of your home. So go ahead.
Ron, I just want to clarify for the city council that we have to make a decision by December 31st, 2021, whether or not we will allow marijuana to be sold in the city.
That's correct. So
Thank
the point of my conversation here and my points of information here, I've never been a supporter of marijuana consumption personally, but professionally, I am sworn to uphold the laws of the state of New York and the city, as well as the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States says that any person who has license to carry a firearm, actually not the Constitution, but federal law says that any person who is licensed to carry a firearm cannot consume marijuana. None of your cops will be using marijuana, okay? They're not legally allowed to, nor should any permitted person who has a pistol license issued by the County of Nassau or otherwise. They are subject to the revocation of those licenses based on federal law. That being said, you will probably experience, I can almost say with certainty, greater calls for ambulance services, for fire department services, and for police services over the next, however long it takes for it to become proliferated here in the city. The question is, does the city want to allow the sale of marijuana restricted in accordance to the city code and actualize the revenue generation that comes with that? So the way that works is there's a 9% tax on marijuana. I believe, yeah, if 5% goes to the state, 1% would go to the county, 3% would go to the city. And there's associated other taxes on top of that that also get divided. So the city would, it's almost like watching a flood happen. Do you want to move your car out of the way, or do you want to leave your car there and watch it get sunk? So it's up to the city council. I am sort of torn between both sides of this particular discussion myself, having been a person who's avoided drug use my life, but if we're going to be paying more for our city services, and we're going to be utilizing more of our city services and probably need more of those services into the future, the city may want to seriously consider the permissive sale of marijuana within the city limits under your rules. You could make rules where you don't have to have that within 100 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet of a school or a house of worship, which would restrict the locations where that could take place and could then give you the ability to tax it. Know this, 4 or 5 miles up the road, you go over a little Atlantic Beach Bridge and you can buy all the marijuana your heart desires as many times as you want, up to 5 pounds in your home. And you can get more than that if the doctor says you need it. So you can get a doctor's clearance that says this person needs to have 25 pounds of marijuana in their house at all times, and they can. Being a little facetious there, I don't know how that would happen, but they can go above the 5 pound limit. 5 pounds of marijuana is a lot of pot. If you put just 5 pounds of flour on your desk, you're looking at about 3 feet by 3 feet by about 2 feet high. It's a lot of pot. So I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they went so high in those limits. It's not for me to question at this point, but it is something that the city council should be considering at this point and discussing as to whether or not they want to legalize the sale in the manner in which the city sees. So even if the county opts out, the city can opt in for its own tax generation.
So would you, Ron, and Rich work together to present this to the council, the options?
Sure. I think, I know Rich has been involved with reading up on this as well as Joe Lupo. We've already had a few discussions on it. I've been reading quite a bit about it. I got New York City's opinion on it from their legal department. Nassau County Police Department will be coming out with something shortly. And I also have some other information that I could share with the council from another law firm that was forwarded to me through some of my connections that kind of reviews the manner in which they are looking at it from trying to get the name of, well, the name of the firm isn't important, but I will forward the information to Rich, and Rich and I can get it disseminated to you so you guys can get more and more educated on it. It's a complicated issue, and we're going to have people from both sides of the coin fervently for and fervently against this, so it's going to be a decision that you'll have to make.
Yeah,
Right.
this
By
is
the way,
something.
I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say this is something we're probably going to have some kind of public working meeting to discuss.
I agree.
This is probably not the place to have this long discussion on it. This is a very a topic that's got a lot of angles to it, and we definitely need public input on this as well. This is not something we're going to do in a vacuum, because there's a lot of different sides to this. So we'll in all likelihood have to have a standalone meeting on this topic, because there's going to be a lot of opinions on this.
So my point here was to introduce the topic to let you know that the police department is, at least as far as we're concerned, and in line with it, or maybe slightly in front of other places, trying to make sure that we're not making a mistake and putting the city at jeopardy where our officers do something wrong. The day the law came out, we put out some guidance to the department.
Okay, that's great.
The next thing I want to talk about, I was asked to discuss just real quickly, is there may be a notice by some of you that there's been some graffiti showing up around the city. And we've been reporting it. I've made the officers hyper vigilant in that regard, where we're actually canvassing the entire city from beach to bay, from end to end of the city. And we're discovering a lot of graffiti, but a lot of it is stuff that we're finding out is older than we thought, but nonetheless not detected because it wasn't something that was in the forefront of the minds of the officers at all times. It is now. So every officer has been made aware. We have been working with Nassau County as well in their intel section. We put out intelligence bulletins. Maybe you saw it on our website. It's also out on the county's website. We've been working with our school resources also to try and see if they know the person who has the particular tags that we are currently seeing in the city. And we're definitely very hyper about it. We put out extra patrols at night during the hours where we see certainly new stuff coming up. As soon as we see anything on city property, we notify our maintenance so they can get out there and start to paint it over the next day. We find that when you deal with graffiti, the faster you cover it, the less incidents there are of graffiti in general. We've also had instances where it showed up on some of our local business establishments, and it was there for a day or two, and I had my cops go down, knock on the door, asking the business owners, would you mind painting that over for us? We'd like to make sure that it's not something that becomes something we're used to in the city. And we've got very strong cooperation from all of the business owners in that regard. So that's kind of where we are in regard to that. Guys, any questions on that before I move on to the last part of my report? So the last part of my report is regarding geographic policing and a geographic community policing model that we're actually putting into effect in the city. So on Friday of last week, I put out to the entire membership of the police department a model of a community policing plan that's really geographic policing. What does that mean? We are going to be assigning, we're looked at the city as a whole from end to end, and we looked at historical calls for service data and where our city is looking, what our city looks like and the intensity of the calls as to where things happen. And we decided that the best way to deal with the postcards is to realign the city in a more geographically common, if you will, a way for calls for service types. So we grouped the city into 5 posts. We had 5 posts before, but they were generally broad. Like one went from Lindell all the way across the city to Monroe on the north side. So that was considered B North. So B North had North Park in it. It had parts of the Lindell community. I don't think you call that West Home. I don't know what you call it up there, the residential area. Over there, you had the MLK Center and the Rec Center. You had Long Beach Road and the residential area behind the east side of Long Beach Road on Monroe and things like that. And it wasn't really homogeneous in approach for policing, if you will. Then you had other areas of the city that did the same. The West End car came all the way out to Grand. That's not common. Once you pass New York Avenue, it changes the types of conditions that you're having in the city, as I've seen through my talks with many of the councils, many of you council members, many of the civic associations. So what we did is we realigned the city with the input of every single supervisor on the job, meaning all the sergeants, the lieutenants, the executive officer, some of the civilian members, and many of the police officers as well, so that we can actually get their input. And they came up with a design with me to redesign those posts. And what the design is that you have to think of the city in terms of when an officer is not assigned to a call for service. When you're assigned to a call for service, you listen to the radio tells you where to go. So you could be on A, which is down west, and there's a call on the east end and those cars are assigned on something else, you're going to the east end of the city. So my post in Nassau County, when I drove a police car, was as big as the city of Long Beach, one car. You have 5 cars here, but they get tied up on different things. So you might have to run from the east to the west, the west to the east, the north to the south, and any place in between. The real question is what are our officers doing when they're not assigned to a call for service? What are they doing when they have time to go get out of their car, learn the residents, learn the business community, learn the faith-based community, partner with them, and know the particular conditions on the post? That's the question that we tried to answer. So we redesigned, and the North Park community, you could call it whatever you'd like to call it. Some people in North Park say it doesn't go past the railroad tracks west. It's only on the east side of the railroad tracks to about Long Beach Road, in that area, from basically Park to the bay. But if you ask other people on the other side of the track, no, we're part of North Park too. So there's a question there. It doesn't really matter. You have a geographical boundary that you cannot drive a car through, and that's called the railroad tracks. You have to exit the community, come out on Long Beach Road, Park Avenue, and re-enter, and that takes some time. But the like types of conditions in this area and the governor's executive order. The governor's executive order was specifically detailed to, in the wake of the George Floyd tragedy, to strengthen the bonds that the police departments had with the minority communities across the state. And the largest percentage of minority community that we have in a group is in the North Park area. Now, certainly it's not solely minorities. And secondly, there are minorities who live all over the city. The city's become more homogeneous as time has gone by. But the concentration there and the disenfranchised feeling that they have in that the police department in general has never partnered with that community can't be denied. So part of this plan was making those posts smaller to give more intensified attention, and the officers getting out of their car, walking those neighborhoods, engaging with the kids, engaging with the residents, walking through the Channel Park houses, going into the MLK Center, going to the houses of worship when they're having their services, going to the rec center and the senior center and all those areas in between, so that that community starts to feel as if the police department not only cares for them, but they know they're police officers. And here's the beauty. The police officers will be assigned to permanent posts, day and night, and they will all communicate with each other and be held responsible now to come up with a plan to address the community's repeated concerns and repeated calls for service. That's never happened here before. You've never had police officers being held responsible for that. It's not a punishment, it's an engagement. And they're going to be working with their supervisors to request additional resources that me in particular, will try to figure out ways to give them, whether it be traffic agents or community policing officers that we're in the process now of finalizing the hire of 2 more police officers, actually 3, 1 to get us up to authorized strength and 2 for community service, to get them out to work in those communities across the city to finally solve problems permanently, to permanently solve these problems. The union sent a letter to the local paper today that was questioning things, and basically, to paraphrase what the union said is they believe that what the policing model and the post model that we have right now works just fine. And this is the most sweeping change they've ever seen. So I submit to you, the council, and to the public that's listening, characterize it as you will. If you continue right now to do exactly what we've been doing, your results will never change, but rest assured they'll get worse, because over time, the world will change around you. It's time that we start to try new things in this city to engender the trust-based relationships that I've spoken to all of you about through my interview process and have been very steadfast with. I personally agree that if you have 10 people working, you don't put out 5 cars with 10 officers in it, 2 in each car. Why? Because if one of them needs a break, well, both of them are on a break. If one of them needs to do, if there's a call for 1 man, both of them have to be taken out of service for that. My philosophy is, if we have 10 cars and 10 officers, put out 10 cars. So assign the 10 cars to the post and have 5 cars to post and have 10 cars doing various other things. 1 to focus on graffiti, 1 to focus on double park cars, 2 to focus on generalized enforcement, 1 to go out to a community meeting, things like that. So utilizing our officers to get more efficiency and productivity. And I understand that I may have ruffled some feathers with the union leadership and maybe even some of the officers, but to wholeheartedly say in a communication with our paper that every officer that they have spoken to is wholeheartedly against this is not what I have experienced. I've spoken to 39 of these officers individually in my time here. I plan on speaking with the rest. And as time goes by, every day I try to call in another 1 or 2 or stay late or come in at night to work with them and get to meet them. And I have gotten some very favorable responses from them. And I firmly believe that the officers in this department not only want to feel as if they're part of the best department, they want a leadership to usher them into the 21st century policing that we're looking for. There's been a lot of changes in law enforcement, and these officers feel attacked. They feel attacked by the state government passing laws that they feel are intrusive, by local governments, even passing legalized marijuana is taken as an attack on the profession, right? It's my job to lead the men and women of this department who are outstanding police officers and committed to doing their job the best that they can, and to lead them to a place where they feel comfortable in this community and the community feels comfortable with them. That's the goal. So that in essence summarizes the community policing model. You will probably be reading about the community policing model in the Long Beach Herald in the not too distant future. And if any of you have any questions about it that I can address tonight, I'll be more than happy to entertain that. John, if it's okay with you. You're muted.
All right, any questions for Ron?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that my expectation is that the union works with you on this.
I would expect the same thing.
Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else. All right, thanks, Ron.
Sure thing.
So does that conclude the city manager's report?
It depends on whether or not John can talk without sounding like Darth Vader.
Oh, that's right.
That's what you sound like, John.
Yes, no.
Oh, you're golden.
Oh,
There
you
go.
work now.
All right, I'll speak quickly because I have kids screaming in the background and I might turn into Darth Vader any second anyway. So for the week ending yesterday, the 5th, there were 85 confirmed positive tests of COVID within the Long Beach community over that past week. That is a daily 7-day average of 12.14 a week, or 0.36 per 1,000 residents per day. That is still, we've come down obviously where we were, but it is still something of a plateau. We're not anywhere near where we were late spring, early summer last year. And the fear remains that we're continuing to maybe go to a 4th peak. So a level of concern continues to exist, even though there's a much larger supply of vaccinations going on. And even though we are down from where the holiday peak was. So just for a couple of the key indicators, the percentage of ICU beds on Long Island are 24%, which is actually higher than we've seen. It's oscillated between 21, 22, 23% for at least the past 6 months. So 24 is, although a moderate, a hopeful tick higher. And just in terms of positivity rate, Long Island is at 4.37%, which out of the 10 regions across the state is the second highest, second only to the Mid-Hudson Valley. So Long Island is, essentially helping to drag the state positivity rate up higher. Positive news, we're pulling in on a state level about 1.4 million vaccines every week are being distributed, whether it's a first, second, or standalone dose. That's what's getting put in arms of New Yorkers every single week and becoming available every single week. So that is a positive, but that said, supply continues to be completely outstripped by demand. So it is a challenge to get shots. And even as it continues to be a challenge, the eligibility levels continue to expand. So as of today, all New Yorkers 16 and older, regardless of any comorbidities or medical conditions or line of profession, Any New Yorker 16 or older is eligible to register to receive the vaccine. Actually, one of the better sources, the more inclusive source. So the state puts up where the state's doing shots and some of the hospitals that they're working with. The county does that, but then they also put up the county shots, but it's not necessarily inclusive of the Walgreens and the CVS. So go to the city's website, longbeachny.gov/COVID-19. And we've listed as many resources as we can track out there for folks to go and try and sign themselves up for a vaccine. It's still a challenge. If you're really having an awful time, give the city manager's office a call. Opportunities come our way through whether it be South Nassau or through the county every once so often. And in my spare time, I like to continually hit refresh on my computer. So if I can help out, some of our residents get an appointment, I'm all for doing that as well. And so the last COVID update is New York State has lifted the 11 p.m. curfew for casinos, movie theaters, bowling alleys, billiard halls, gyms, and fitness centers. Still not restaurants and bars as of yet, but we are, at least in terms of restrictions, moving in the right direction. As long as we can continue to keep the numbers down, we are hopeful for what that means for the rest of our local economy and even city operations. So that's what I've got for everybody.
Okay,
Great,
thanks.
Thanks, John.
Any questions for John? All right, hearing
Mr. Bendo?
none.
That concludes my report.
Okay, and what a report it was.
Sorry, so
All right.
long-winded. It was just important to get it out there.
Okay, so all right, let's move on to our public hearings, Dave.
Okay, our first public hearing is for a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding city physician and health officer. This goes along with item number 2 on the agenda. And John, I believe you have a motion on this item?
I do have a motion for an amendment in the very long paragraph that begins with any sworn police officer in the Department of the City of Long Beach. Towards the bottom of that paragraph, it says the city physician shall certify that such injured or sick sworn police officer has recovered and is physically able to perform his regular duties. His should be changed to his/her. That makes it consistent with the other changes that were made where we were making them gender neutral. So I guess they just, in my speaking with Rich, I think they just missed that one. So.
Do I have a second? Oh, sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, voting on amendment. Councilmember Delory.
Well, Dave, also, on the top, it says a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding city physician. This is all capital. It should be 1 N.
Okay, that's a spelling mistake. I can correct that.
Okay,
Okay. All right, on the current motion, Councilmember Delory,
yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so I guess Rich, I guess I don't know if you and Ron are gonna speak on this at all. I think it's pretty straightforward. We're just kind of everything where we kept referring to a doctor as he or him. We're changing that to gender neutral.
His or hers, yeah. Correct. So one of the other changes were basically putting in sworn police officer because there are other members of the department who aren't sworn police officers. We wanted to just make that carve out and update it. And that's essentially it for item number 2. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions from the council members? All right. Hearing none. Dave, any from the public?
No hands are raised.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
wait, we have one just raised up. William Depper,
okay.
go ahead, sir.
Yes, hi. I do have a few questions actually. For Mr. Commissioner Walsh, will you be doing anything about the cars, SUVs with such dark tinted windows?
Oh, well, Ms. Depper, that's different. Save that for good and welfare.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Only
time
because you
to say.
just spoke.
No, we're
Okay.
just taking comments now on this specific item, but save what you want to ask for
Okay,
good and
well, I
welfare.
do have one for you. You had mentioned about the forms and it's saying he and her. Well, many people identify differently now, so you should include other.
Yes, Mr. Depper, that's a great comment. That's something we're looking to do internally when we're going to be overhauling the entire code and charter, and rolling it out, I guess, meeting by meeting as much as we can. How does the saying go? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. So that's what we're going for.
Only because we just updated our forms at Northwell and the United Way.
Yes, thank you. Great suggestion.
Yeah, good. Thanks for pointing that out. All right. Anyone else, Dave?
That was it.
Okay, let's close that hearing and move on to the next one.
Second hearing is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding police surgeon and city physician.
Okay, and I also have want to propose an amendment for that one. So where it says being enacted by the City Council of the City of Long Beach, New York as follows. And then it says Section 1, Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 3, Section 14-212. The Section 14-212 should be struck. That doesn't belong here. I don't know how that got in there, but that's nothing to do with this.
Mhm.
So
Do I have a
that's
second?
it.
I second.
Thank you. Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Are we striking section 14-212?
yes.
We're not striking the section in the code. We're striking the reference to it in the resolution.
The reference to the revolution?
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so I guess our same team here, Rich and Ron.
Right. So the purpose of this, I guess, overhaul of this portion of the code was to kind of update the code in line with the practice in the police department with the police surgeon. So we included, obviously, the commissioner of police as a point of contact with the police surgeon, and basically just tweaked it so that as it reads, it's more in line with how we actually interact and work with the police surgeon. Anything you want to add on that, Ron?
No, it took some work with us. I know that we've been working hand in hand on this, and it reflects exactly what we need going forward. So I appreciate the hard work with it. Thanks, Rich.
Well, I think we've been finding some of this stuff hasn't been updated in many, many years. So as times change, the verbiage behind it didn't.
Yeah.
So
You're very kind. Years?
well,
All right, centuries, half centuries sometimes.
yeah. Surprised it doesn't refer to the police officers driving around in Model Ts.
Oh, we haven't just found it yet. It will be there.
But okay, any questions from the council? All right, seeing none, Dave, from the public.
At this time.
Okay, hearing none, let's close that hearing and move on to the next one.
And our final public hearing is for a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 58A street floor for an online apparel business. Now, if the owner is on,
Okay.
please raise your hand so I can unmute you. Yep, there we are. Mr. Kubler?
All right, hi, Mr. Kubla. All right, so you could tell us, Mr. Kubla, could you tell us a little bit about your business? Well, he's unmuted, but we're not hearing him. Okay, he muted. Now he's unmuted again.
I
Yeah.
can hear it very faint.
Very
Yeah,
faint.
there's something in the
Right.
background. I can, yeah, very, very faint.
Dave, can Mr. Kubler sign off and sign back on?
Yeah, you can always sign off and sign back on. Or you could try changing your audio option. There's an option there to use the phone option. You may want to try that. And if you want to give that a shot, we can come back. We can circle back to you after you reconnect.
Yeah, he just muted and unmuted again. Yeah, unfortunately, we're still not hearing you. So maybe what we'll do is maybe try disconnecting and reconnecting, and we'll just, as soon as you come back on, we'll circle right back to you.
So, Mr. Kubio, I'm going to mute you right now, but I'm going to still leave you enabled to talk. As soon as you're able to get back on, if you've solved your audio issue, just raise your hand and we'll recall we'll circle back to this item. Okay.
All right. So we'll leave that hearing open for now.
Yeah,
And
looks
then
like
we'll wait till he talks before
Yep.
we take any public comments so people know about the business. So why don't we move on, I guess, to
Yeah, we'll go on to the regular
agenda.
calendar. Okay, so first item is approval of minutes for prior meeting, February 2nd, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, item 2 is a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding city physician and health officer. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 3 is an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach regarding police surgeon and city physician. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 4 is a resolution. Oh, we
Well,
are going.
we gotta wait for Mr. Kubler to come
we're going
back.
to wait for Mr. Kubler to come back. We are going to. Wait a minute, I see he popped back up.
Oh,
Mr.
he's
Kubler-
back.
Mr. Kubler, are you able to go ahead and try to unmute and see if we can hear you?
We're still not hearing you.
Mr. Kubler, what I suggest is in your audio options, there should be an option there to switch to phone audio. You may want to switch to that and see if that clears up your audio problems. Because we're not able to hear you. All right, we'll have to circle back again. All right, so we'll come back to item 4 and its associated hearing.
Sure.
Items 5 and 6 we already called at the beginning of the meeting. Item 7 is a resolution fixing and providing for the 2021 season of the Ocean Beach Park.
Okay. So I think that's going to be Mr. Brand.
That's me.
There
Can
it
hear
is,
me.
our Parks and Recreation Commissioner.
Okay, this is just formally introducing the official beach park season and setting the dates for operation. Everybody got to enjoy a taste of it today, I hope. Summer's right around the corner. That's it.
And can't wait for it. So any questions from the council? All right. Any questions from the public, Dave?
I have no hands raised.
Okay, then let's move on and see if Mr. Kubler came back again.
He is back.
Let's see if
Hold
we
on.
get him this time. Oh,
Try one. Hold on. Mr. Kubler? Mr. Kubler? No, we're getting a very, very faint.
Yeah, we're getting some very faint background static noise. We could hear, it sounds like you're trying to talk, but we're just not hearing you. Dave, is there maybe a way to come in through a telephone or
Yeah,
something?
there is an option. If you, in your audio settings, there should be a setting there to switch to phone audio, at which point it'll give you a phone number to dial into, and then you can try calling in that way. I'm gonna try reaching out by email in a minute, so we'll circle back to you in a minute.
Okay, we're gonna get this done.
Okay, so let's move on. I guess item 8, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement for providing for an electronic beach pass solution.
Okay, I'm gonna guess, Joe, that's you again?
That would be me. If you've paid attention to the last 2 work sessions, you know that we've offered the floor to 3 out of the 4 vendors who submitted proposals for the electronic beach passes. Happy to announce here now that we're looking for the council to pass the originally preferred vendor, USE Direct, and we jump into a new realm for the cities of Long Beach and offering a solution, taking us into the future with our famous beach passes.
Okay, we're coming to the game a little late and a little slow, but we're coming to the game at least. Just one question, Joe. There'll still be the old traditional card passes sold as well for people that maybe don't have smartphones or for whatever reason like the old touchy-feely feel of that plastic in their hand.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
If you want to purchase the beach passes the way you've always purchased them, waiting online for a couple of hours in the rec parking lot before the first nice weekend of the season, you're more than welcome to do that. However, we'd love to encourage you to try and take advantage, and please be on the lookout for this new solution that I think people are going to be very happy with.
Okay, and we expect this will be up and running in plenty of time for the beach season, right? For people to buy their passes?
Absolutely. We're going to run them, congruently with one another for the opening date for the sale of the hard pass will coincide with the electronic beach passes.
Great. Okay. All right. Any questions from the council members?
I just have 2 questions, John or Joe. The date for the hard pass sale, do we know that yet?
May 3rd.
Okay, so this will go live on or before May 3rd?
That's correct.
And
it won't go live before it, Mike. We can't
Okay.
give up the color of the passes before we start selling them, buddy. You know that.
And why would we want to enter a 3-year agreement?
That's a good question. I could certainly reach out to USC Direct in terms of the the language of that contract with them. I'm not familiar with why.
Well, my concern is this: we're entering into something that really we haven't seen live on a day-to-day basis, and to lock it in for 3 years. That is my particular concern. I would be more comfortable with just 1 year at this point, but that's only my concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike, and that, it is something that the city manager can discuss with USC Direct, but I think there's a mutual risk involved here, right? So they are building out a platform. They're making an upfront investment. The city, is willing to make a transition to have this option available to the residents. So, we're not locking into a decade, but if we're looking to pursue this avenue, I think any particular vendor is going to look for some level of commitment in order to make sure that their upfront investment becomes worthwhile one. Nobody has more invested in them making sure that this works than USC Direct does, or whichever vendor the city ultimately chooses.
Councilman Dorey, Also, to your concern, right? So your concern is basically, let's assume for a moment that we're not talking about USC Direct. You're talking about any vendor.
Correct.
Okay. So if there's a situation in which they don't perform to our satisfaction, is that your concern?
Yes, sir.
So we can always structure a deal in which we protect the city's interest to do so without kind of, we can do a 3-year deal with protections on performance and things like that. Those are things we can discuss with USC Direct.
Yeah, my concern is this. It's new, they're building, we're not trying it out. It seems to be going live. Thankfully, it'll all work out fine. However, the plan or the fallback, if some glitch does happen, because like Mr. McNally says, they're investing in building, I'm concerned about an opt-out. Okay,
Understood.
That's all.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think this goes to Mr. Lester's general question, is that the council has not seen this agreement. And I'm thinking the reason we haven't seen it is because it's not over $20,000, because it's based on user fees. Is that correct?
Well, so understand this is the result of the RFP, right? So the RFP sets forth some of the general, bottom line conditions. And kind of puts that and lumps it into an actual contract, which USC Direct and the city will ultimately finalize and negotiate and execute. But with that RFP conditions being the bare minimum of what we're getting out of it.
So we won't see the contract.
I can forward it to your attention before it's signed. Yeah, I can.
But it's not negotiated yet.
Not completely, no.
Right.
Meaning it hasn't been inked and they haven't signed it yet, but we've been in discussions for sure.
I also noticed that in the preliminary 21-22 budget, there's an amount for beach charges, which is the revenue. But I can't find the associated line item, or unaware rather of the associated line item that covers the user fees. So I can't tell if it's a contra revenue account or an expense account. So that would basically equal a net beach revenue number. So I can't even back into the user fees right now.
All right, I just saw Ina pop up, so I assume she's going to jump in on that.
Hello?
Yep.
Good evening. Yeah, Karen, I just want to make sure that I understand your question correctly. You're asking what's the amount of the user fee in total?
No, I'm asking basically not necessarily the amount, but where the expense for the user fee is budgeted in the 21-22 budget.
In a people's individual home budget.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's going to be carried by the purchasers of the tickets.
Yeah, Karen, if you remember, they add a service fee on when you purchase the ticket. So it doesn't cost the city anything. So whatever the fee, I don't know what it is. I'm throwing out a random amount, but if you buy a $15 beach ticket, you may pay $1 service fee to buy it online. So the purchaser is paying the fee.
So there's no fees to the city, no perceived costs except capital costs. Is that correct?
No perceived cost other than investment in those devices that will read the passes. Yeah. So we can share with you what the percentages are of those user fees, what people will be paying based on the level of the pass, but the city is not carrying that expense.
Okay, but that's still a negotiation, so you don't want to reveal it.
Just to you. I don't know, which is if the legalities are not allowing it, then no.
No, I mean, I can say that the devices, Councilwoman McGinnis, are, so we have stripped down iPhones that the providers have all offered us for free. And it's basically paying for the plan. and you're looking at, something along the lines of $13,000 to $15,000 a year for the combined plans in order to staff up all of the beach entrances with the scanners.
Which are in regular phone costs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the contractual services in the IT department budget.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any more questions from the council? All right, seeing none, what about from the public, Dave?
Yes, we have Roy Lester.
Okay,
On?
yes, you are.
Okay. Karen, you're right. You won't see the contract. And that's, I guess, what's bothering me. What you guys are doing basically is telling the city manager she is authorized to negotiate the contract. She's authorized to enter into it. You don't have to have anything to do with it. You don't have to see it. Matter of fact, if you did see it, it would have to be in a public meeting. So, and she can put in whatever terms and conditions she deems proper. Now, I know that's the way you get around the open meetings law, so you don't have to show a contract because you guys are not negotiating the contract. The city manager is negotiating it. You're not looking at the contract, the city manager is. But I don't know that the city manager has that right under the charter. The city manager has no legislative powers or duties. And negotiating contracts like this that seem to be the purview of the city council doesn't seem to be something that she should be doing. It seems that that's why we elected a council, to actually look at these contracts and decide things. But am I missing something here? Is that what's happening?
Rich,
Mr.
you wanna-
Lester, I think the city manager is authorized to enter into contracts under the charter. It's kind of a give and take. So she's, Donna currently is, and Ron Walsh is the acting chief executive officer of the city, right? Negotiating contracts and coming to terms or agreements in principle is certainly part and parcel of the job. Ultimately, the council has to authorize it to enter into those contracts, depending on what the circumstances are. But yes, the check is that the council has the ability to vote on it.
No, they don't. They voted now. In order for them to vote on it, it would have to be out in the public. We would have to see it. The open meetings law is completely clear about that. Negotiations, I agree with you on. But if they're voting on a contract, we have a right to see it. And they're not voting on a contract. All they voted on was authorizing her to enter into the contract, whatever she determines to be deemed, or whatever she deems to be proper. That's what the resolution says. That's what the other two, number 5 and 6, say too.
You can understand that. I mean, listen, the council appointed Donna. I imagine they trust her to negotiate certain things.
Right.
But I get your point completely, Mr. Lester. I'm not.
I just don't see it in the charter. Shall have no other legislative powers or duties. It's pretty clear. But
Right, but if the legislature authorizes her to do it, then they're authorizing her to do it. Right? I understand your point. I'm just saying they're voting on whether or not to authorize her to negotiate and enter into the contract.
So all contracts she can be authorized to enter into them, and we don't ever have to see any of them. It's an odd way of doing things. All right, thanks.
Okay, anyone else, Dave?
Yes, Judy Vining.
Okay.
Lost her there.
Yeah, I don't see her.
Just dropped off. There she is.
There she is.
Judy, go ahead.
You got to unmute, Judy. There you go.
Okay, I'm muted. Whether it's electronic or a plastic pass, have the amount of family memberships, or whatever we're calling them, gone up, down, or stayed the same? Because it's always been a concern of mine in terms of revenue, that you can buy up to 3 family passes without any further proof of identity, whereas multiple years ago when I had small kids, I had to bring their birth certificates. And it's a kind of common practice that lots of Long Beach people have lots of friends in Oceanside and Island Park, and they're paying local fees, not out-of-towner fees.
I can answer that question for you. And it's two parts to the question, Judy. The first one being a household is allowed to purchase up to 3 resident family passes.
Well, that's my question, Joe. Why?
Yes. Okay, but you also brought up children, and I was just going to touch on that. But if that's
Children
answering
is my-
life, then yes, that's it.
So why is that, is my question.
Why is
that so high that you can purchase 3 family passes per person?
Well, I mean, there are a number of households that have more than 2 adults over the age of 18 living in
Absolutely.
it. And they should be able
And
to
so I can
purchase.
understand the second one, but when you gotten up there now, 6 people? That's a lot.
Three's been the rules for as long as I've known it, Judy.
Joe?
I think it's a fair
I think I'm
number.
older than you, but
I mean,
I remember not, okay?
What was that?
I remember when it was not 3. That increase, I can't even tell you when because I'm not good with numbers. But when I got to the point where my children were old enough that I needed this either a second individual, another individual, or more than the family pass, it was 2 was the limit, and I had to bring my lease or my.
No, that stuff is still all required for proof of residency. And if you do need passes for children that are included between the ages of 13 and 17.
Oh, I know that. I'm just asking.
But I'm saying my household alone, I have 4 children that all need beach passes. They're not included in the child passes. I have to buy 3 sets of adult passes to meet my family's needs.
Okay.
And there's a number of families that do have that.
I'm just wondering if there's some safeguard you could put in so that it is for Long Beach families. I have no problem with that. But we also all know that that's not what happens.
Well, hopefully we'll have a lot of success with the electronic beach passes, and you can't hand out your cell phone quite as easily as you can hand out a plastic beach pass.
True.
It's one step we're taking, but the 3 was decided on to be the fair number.
Okay, I was just raising it for consideration, considering we certainly need revenue.
Point taken. Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Judy.
Okay.
All right, anyone else, Dave?
Yes, William Depper.
Okay. You
Go ahead,
muted,
sir.
Mr. Depper. There you go.
About the electronic beach pass, I mean, is there going to be something like similar to a kiosk where the person can just go up, flash it in front, and then enter onto the beach? And also, aren't you concerned that people are going to be taking like screenshots and just sending it to their friends, and then you're going to have so many people on the beach? Because I live right near the beach pass entrance, and most of them just look at your thing and just tell you have a nice day. I mean, hopefully they'll go through better training, but I see many just walking onto the beach. Some of them don't even show their passes.
All right, to answer 2 of your questions, the first one is the kiosk or the points of entry at the beach park will remain the same. The regular beach entrances that we have are going to be the regular beach entrances that you'll now walk onto the beach at. If you show your plastic pass or hard pass that you've purchased over the years before, nothing will change. If you're showing your electronic beach pass, it'll be on your cell phone. That ticket taker can scan it. But one feature, Mr. Depler, I think that was your name,
Yes.
is that the pass that appears on the cell phone has a real-time timer on it. So you can't simply, take a screenshot and send it, or take a screenshot and have somebody send you a picture of it to put it on. So once it's scanned, it'll come up as invalid, and that pass is obviously, that phone doesn't have an electric beach pass app.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. Anyone else, Dave?
That was all.
Okay, let's see. Did we get Mr. Kubla back?
Yeah, I have him on the phone here.
Okay.
So here, I'm going to change my microphone so we can see if we can hear him. My computer microphone. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes. A little muffled, but yes.
Mr. Kubler?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, we can. Good. Finally, we got this worked out.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So can you just, can you tell us a little about your business?
Okay, so I'm a retired New York City firefighter, and I started an online apparel business to sell firefighter T-shirts and firefighter apparel to firemen from all over the world. So basically, it's not going to be in a retail in the store. I won't be selling out of the store. It's more like an office and to conduct online sales. And that's about it.
Okay. So if you're doing online, is that office where you're going to be doing your shipping from?
Yes, I have. I'll bring some items over there. I have another little garage warehouse and a storage, and I don't bring all the items there. So I just what my wife needs for the day, I'll bring over there, and she'll ship out that day.
Okay. So what do you anticipate in terms of, I guess, whether it be pickups or deliveries for the business?
Not too many deliveries. Probably more pickups every day from the post office. You know, a lot of the postal guy pick up the packages at the end of the day. And maybe every once a month I'll get a shipment in, and I'll bring it into the store. Maybe twice a month.
Okay. And all right, so you're not going to be having much in the way of customer traffic. So I guess it's just whatever.
Every once in a while, if a firefighter from Long Beach asks if he can pick it up and save on the shipping, I allow them to come in.
Oh, sure.
To my house, so I would allow them to come pick it up at my house. So it'll be the same thing. I'll just let them pick it up from the store. Save
All right.
money shipping.
And how many people do you anticipate having working in there?
Me and my wife.
Oh, okay. Family affair.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Lives upstate, so he's just more of a behind-the-scenes guy.
Sure. Okay. Any questions from the council members? All right. Seeing none, do we have any from the public, Dave?
No hands raised.
Okay, great. So why don't we close that hearing, and why don't we move to the vote on that so Mr. Kublik could get his answer now.
Okay, so this is item number 4. We're going to vote on a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for permits 58A East Park Avenue for an online apparel business. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes, and welcome to Long Beach, and we wish you a lot of success.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your patience. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Oh, that's fine, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good night.
No problem. Have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, and
Give
let's
me one
move
second.
back
Audio
to the
back.
agenda.
Give me 1 second. Let me just switch my audio back.
Sure.
Way to innovate there, Dave. Nice job.
Hey, we got we have to move. We got to think on the fly here. Okay, so we left off at item number 9, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager and the city controller to transfer funds, excuse me, within the 2020-2021 budget. Excuse me.
All right, I guess, Ina, I'm guessing this is going to be you.
I will try. So, basically the gist of that resolution is, from time to time, we bring to you, request to transfer funds between the accounts, between the departments, to move budget from where we have excess budget to the accounts that, need, money in them. So, as we are approaching year end, what's happening is, money are getting tighter and tighter. and what it requires more and more transfers. So what we're asking to do for the city departments, it's really for the departments, so their operational capacity is not affected, right, by the funding. We're asking that you allow us to check on the availability of the funds and to transfer them, so these departments can proceed with their operations. Like if garage needs money in certain accounts to repair cars, if building maintenance needs money for the repairs, if we need to pay for certain things, it's for operating funds only, for general water and sewer fund. So that's what we're asking you to do, to please give us an authority to proceed with the transfers, and we will be reporting to you on the transfers as the year goes by. So it does not end on July 1st, because city continues to receive invoices well into the fiscal 2022. So we'll continue to provide you with all the information on all the transfers as until the year is closed, fiscal 2021.
This is a normal and customary procedure, correct?
This is a normal and customary procedure, yes.
And the reason I'm for it is because I trust you to make sure that everything's in order. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Delory, so you'll give a summary report of all the transfers sometime in July, and then we'll approve it, or how does that work?
So this will be done for informational purposes only. You approve it now. You're basically giving us not a blank check, because we cannot spend more than what's in the budget, right? But you're giving us a permission to move money between the departments and the accounts.
But when you do your budget adjustments, there'll be some kind of report that the council receives saying that the
absolutely. So what I will
budget was this amount, the amended budget was this amount, and the adjusted budget is this amount at the year end, something like that.
Absolutely. So what I will just make sure that you receive is the scorecard, right? So the scorecard already shows the regional budget and the amended budget. I will also add a column to basically, so nobody will have to do the math. So it will show what the transfers are.
Right, which will probably be the final budget, which will match up almost with your year end, almost.
Yes, absolutely.
In other words, July, after July, there will be none. This is a once a year authorization, it looks like.
This is a once a year authorization, yes.
Okay, thanks, Ina.
I'm sorry, I just have one more request regarding this matter. My apologies. I looked at the preliminary 2021-22 budget with the 3/31/21 actuals, year-to-date actuals that you provided us.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed within the fire department, there was 2 lines that I would ask you a question about, which is related to this blanket transfers. So the first line is a line item in the expense budget for the fire department is called purchase EMS/fire equipment. The adopted budget amount was $200,000 for the fiscal year ending 6/30/21. The year-to-date, the March 31/21 year-to-date spent was 0. So I would like to understand why we have not purchased fire equipment to the amount of $200,000 when there is obviously a demonstrated need, from my layperson opinion, that this money would be spent on fire equipment.
You're absolutely right. So basically this $200,000 budget was established via the watershed when the city anticipated receiving some state grants. And then in first couple of months of fiscal 2021, it became apparent that those grants will not be coming to the city. So this item, amongst the other items that were to be funded by this grant, we just would not allow any expenses because there wouldn't be any revenue coming to cover it.
Does that also include the line item called safety equipment, which has $100,000 budgeted and $8,000 spent March year to date?
You're absolutely correct. Yes.
And that can't be offset by the unbudgeted $651,000 that we received from emergency disaster assistance? Or is that expenses? No, that's revenue, right? Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. So the short answer is no. Why it's no? Because we have to prioritize. Obviously, the revenues of the city, especially exchange type revenues, are they're still severely impacted by COVID and COVID restrictions, and we have to make sure that we're very prudent with how we spend money. And in this case, that this $651,000 will have to be spent, and it can be earmarked 10 different other ways. Everybody at the city does recognize the necessity of the equipment for the firefighters, and we're pursuing an option of leasing that kind of equipment. I think this was specifically earmarked for the ambulances, so we're looking into leasing. I think that they were talking about 2 ambulances, so hopefully this this will come to fruition in the next couple of months.
Okay, I guess we'll discuss further at our budget meetings.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from the council members? All right, Dave, any questions from the public?
Yes, Roy Lester.
Okay.
Go ahead, Roy.
Karen, you were referencing sums. Were they attached to your resolution?
I'm referencing the budget document, the preliminary draft budget documents that the council received last night.
Oh, okay. So we haven't seen them yet. Okay, but this on item 9, there's nothing. They're talking about moving funds, but there are no funds. There's no particularity with the funds. Is that correct? It just says.
That's correct, because it hasn't been determined yet.
Just make sure I wasn't missing something. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks, Roy. Anyone else, Dave?
That was it.
Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Okay, item 10 is a resolution authorizing annual allocation of community development funds for the 45th program year and a budget amendment to the community development fund for the 44th program year.
Okay, and I'm assuming that's going to be Monique. And there she is.
Good evening, everyone. We're continuing aligning community development fund according to the HUD requirements and creating that transparency with the budget and allocating it based on our priorities and where things need to be. So the 45th year, the funds are coming in, the contract was signed, and now it's time to allocate it accordingly. And that's what you see here for the 45th year. So I don't know if there's any questions about the 45th year. The 44th year, sorry, excuse me. It's about just cleaning out items. Every dollar, every penny counts. So the 1616 is just coming out of one area, just added to the other to close out the line. So from history, we've had these line items, these budget funds there. Funds have not been used, and funds should be used, exhausted. and then align to where we need them. And that's what this represents, from the 44th to the 45th year.
Okay. Any questions from the council members?
This is Liz. I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for, I know how much work that you've put into this, so it's much appreciated.
And if I may, just to clear up some things, is that CDBG funds, it's not part of the operational budget. And there's a lot of misconception about that. And I've worked, and I thank Ina for understanding. I think Patty, who worked on this prior to me being here. But we must understand that CDBG funds have 3 objectives. It must benefit to the low and moderate income persons. It must prevent or eliminate slums or blight. And it must meet a community need having a particular urgency. And that is what we're moving forward to do. And that is going to be the goal, moving forward. And with that, there must be timelines and targeted completion dates. And so the sense of urgency to make sure that we meet those measurements will be done.
Hi, Monique. This is Mike Delory. Can you just briefly describe the youth employment training for the summer?
Yes. So one of the, being that we talked about a community urgency need, there has been a need for jobs. There has been job retention, job creation, workforce development. And under that, one of the services, as I am also the supervisor under youth and families, is internships. And that is to provide, sorry, that's John McNally saying Dark Vader. I'm about to turn into Wonder Woman if you can hear the screaming in the back. But that is to, my kids are screaming, that is to provide youth employment internships over the summer. And that, provides internships for the youth. And that could be high school or college seniors. And we're working towards that.
Great. Thanks, Monique.
Mm-hmm.
Monique, is that internships with the city, or we help get them internships like in a business or something?
It's actually with the city.
Okay.
And it has already been a program, and Raymond from the tax was taken over in the tax assessor department. And we have transitioned over. So that is something that we want to do moving forward. We've had a relationship with Evelyn Daza from the high school, and we were doing unpaid during the school year so that they can accrue hours towards their degrees. And then we hope that it will transition to a paid for either that same student or other students eligible as their time and and availability increases, being that they're not in school during the full day. So, yep.
Okay. Any other questions from the council members? All right, seeing none. Dave, any from the public?
Roy Lester.
Okay.
What is the Social Security that we're paying?
So that's part of salaries. So that has to be allocated. That's what we call the fringe benefits. So every line has to create funds for it. So it adds up to what the administrative salaries are.
But it's not put in in with the regular salaries?
No.
It's a separate line for everything combined.
Has to be. Every line has to be identified and moved. Mm-hmm.
Roy, it's the employer portion of the payroll tax.
No, I figured that. I just wasn't sure why it wasn't included in the cost. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anyone else, Dave?
Yep. William Depper.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Depper.
Yes, hi, Ms. Powell. I spoke to you a little earlier.
Sure did.
Would you possibly allow, you do know that there's a big rise in HIV in children 13 to 24 years old. So I was hoping that maybe you would allow some HIV testing, not on school grounds, but possibly near the school grounds, or allow us to do some kind of sex education in the schools. And because really with the schools closed this year, we're figuring that the big rise in the HIV cases, especially with the kids home, parents working, and a lot of time on their hands because we were all younger ourselves. So if you could think it over and possibly maybe get back to me, or I'm not talking about this myself, I would get people that have gone to college and have a degree to teach in this. Like
William,
I'm
it
bringing
was a pleasure.
HIV testing to the MLK Center. I'd like to bring it all over Long Beach.
William, it was a pleasure speaking to you earlier, and you had voiced your concerns about your outreaching and where you stand. And I did explain to you my role. I am not responsible or administering anything that happens in the school. I think that's something that you would have to bring to the attention of the schools. And if that is part of their agenda. I used to be a school administrator. There is a separation of what home and careers and sex education must be, but they have policy and procedures and determine their priorities, and anything outside of the curriculum or instruction. It's definitely hard now with COVID, and there has been a loss of learning for all. So I believe there will be reconstruction of what instructional assessments and this whole loss of learning. But I advise you to reach out to the school district or any party that you may know that has a direct relationship with policy and planning. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do that. You also
How
mentioned
about at the
MLK.
rec center, or how about at the rec center? Like I'm doing it at the community center. Would we be able to do it there? It's in a van. Northwell, AHF, and Project Safety Net all have their own vans.
I think that's something that we can talk about. I can't make that decision
Okay.
right now. There's process.
All
You
right.
have my number. You have my
Yep.
email. I also have Community Talk Wednesdays where you can schedule to meet with me via Zoom. I can come prepared. But there's definitely a process and procedure. And, I take your inquiry and we'll follow that and we'll see if it's possible.
Okay, and I'll bring the sales rep from AHF Pharmacy in too. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And Dave, I see Mr. Hodge is in
Next
the
is-
batter's
yep.
box, so I'm assuming he's next.
He's next. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Just wanted to, while we're on community development, the most marginalized community in the city of Long Beach is I know we were speaking about it earlier. I heard you earlier speaking about what confines North Park, how big it is, where do it go. But the most marginalized area in the city of Long Beach is between the train station, Park Avenue to the Bay, and Long Beach Road. And also if you go over to Channel Park Homes. It appears that, the Martin Luther King Center has been forgot about, I think, when it comes to community development for the last several years, and I believe that with the city having the information, with all city council members knowing the work and knowing the in-depth community service that MLK does. Everybody has been here. Everybody's been here through the MLK, up and down MLK, to MLK events, to MLK special events, Martin Luther King Day. Everybody has spoken well. But the proof is in the action of what we are able to do together. In this budget, maybe there's another budget. I don't know. But I don't see MLK mentioned anywhere in this budget. I don't see $1,000. I don't see $5,000. $5, anything. I don't see it. Maybe it's there, but I the executive director came on last time, spoke about the MLK. We have community development director, is a former director of the MLK. I don't care who anyone is. I'm speaking to the city council, city manager, community development director. The MLK is very important, and all of you know it. It is the poorest area in the city of Long Beach. We need help, and it's great that the commissioner has been on the phone. We've spoken, we talked. He's looking intensively on how he can help, how he can put things together, how he can get more police officers and really abide by the Executive Order 203. I am asking on this council, community development director, that we do something to work with the MLK and put funds into an area that urgently needed. We needed it before the pandemic. Any area that's a depressed area will be even more depressed during the pandemic, an emergency, community, national, natural disaster. So again, we need funds, and I will constantly go around the country and the world to speak up for this marginalized part of the city of Long Beach. Because again, some people sometimes forget about us. We're always the one that's forgot about. And I don't just say that to say it, but the proof is in the action. Even when we had the food distribution, MLK site, the school left out until we pleaded and begged, please stop forgetting about the Martin Luther King Center and the people that are in North Park. The majority, minorities that are here, they're all around Long Beach, but the majority of minorities and the majority of African Americans are right in the confines of, as they would say sometimes, behind Stop and Shop or over behind McDonald's. We are a part of the whole city of Long Beach, Nevada to Maple, from the bay to the ocean. Please let us continue to allow our budgets, to allow our actions to reflect all of us. I request wholeheartedly, please, I ask on behalf of the North Park community, please don't forget about us.
Great. Hi, James. So I know you addressed some things to me, and there's a lot of unpacking. So if you would like to go back, I took some notes of what has been said. So if you would like to go back, and if you have a question, because it seems like you haven't stated.
That's your time also.
And that's your time. So here's some things that we could talk about.
I didn't hear the buzz, but go ahead.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, it went off. I had it going.
Okay, go ahead.
So we talked about community development, and you're talking about the North Park, and you made a statement that you have been ignored. I didn't write that part down.
No,
but
previous administrations, yes.
Okay. Well, from what I have now and for what is happening, we created an all access program with community development. The statement of being ignored, I really can't touch base on that. But however, there has been funds that has been used on the North Park. There has been funds for the community as a whole. You have to understand what CDBG funds is. I've created platforms to communicate and become transparent. Please understand that the community at need is not just North Park, but North Park is inclusive to that. So I just wanted you to go over some of the things that you were saying so that I can touch point on that. But North Park, for what I've read, for what the plans are, which we haven't communicated, funds have been allocated to MLK for years, which is the senior program. There's evidence of funds that's been there, some of the youth programs, the security guards, we can go on. And I don't want it to be a back and forth. You should know me that my point is being progressive and for everyone to be accountable and to align the dollars where there's need. So if you want to have that time to discuss it, and if you want to do it offline, if you want to be part of the community talk, and if you want to go back and forth emails, I am fine to do that. But there's a lot of things that was said that I can vouch for and say that's untrue. So if you want to go back, we can do that. I don't know if time is allotted for that, but not while I'm in this position will I allow someone to say that certain parts of the community have been ignored. If I was good enough to work at the Martin Luther King Center, I am good enough to be the director of community development here in Long Beach, and understanding the needs. So I want us to understand that, and to work together is to understand my vision and my mission as a director of community development, as a city manager has set me in for this position, and align it to the needs of the community. And I have said that numerous times on this in every meeting, and it's to find the needs of every person that is in need. And yes, there are some, according to CDBG and according to you, that have higher needs, and we need to identify that. And we're going to identify that by making data-driven decision-making. And we've talked about that during our nonprofit of what data-driven decision-making is. So I can't say what the needs are, and honestly, you can't say, but we need to have a community needs assessment. We can meet, we can have surveys. I've read the North Park survey that was created. I've spoke to Marv McMorrow Jr., as I discussed, and those are all part of my plans. However, we have not got there yet. Before we start to implement, we have to align the dollars, we have to clean up, because there's a process and a procedure. I am an advocate for process, procedure, and systems. So we just can't wake up and say we're going to feed everybody. There has to be a systematic approach. There has to be data. I talked about logic framework models, theories of change, and evaluation to know that we're doing it. I always said we cannot all provide food at the same time. Families on Thanksgiving, we all giving out turkeys. However, on that table, there are other items that they can eat, which means that we need to come together, whether it's the nonprofit, the clergies, or any stakeholders that's out there saying that we want to provide a need and work together. The city does not have the time or the capacity to do the same programs over and over again, but to supplement what's already being provided. And the only way to do that is to find the needs assessment of the entire community, align it, and do it accordingly. You and I have talked about data, what's important, and that is my mission. So therefore, we will no longer be providing a table full of all turkeys, because everybody in Thanksgiving out turkeys, but we can have turkey, we can have corn, we can have soda, we can have all the above. But we need to be able to identify what is a person that need. The last meeting we had, we talked about it being 6.9% of people that's living under poverty. That's in poverty, sorry, in Long Beach, 6.9%. And the average income is $94,000. Now, we compare us to another city, to another place in need, those numbers are different. So I ask that we work together to identify the needs of that 6.9%, because there is community development funds that can help them and add on to that and give them a need, but we need to work together. So I can go over, what is being done, but please, when you say you're directing me, my line has been open. I've communicated, and I actually walked by the MLK Center today. So I don't want to bring it to that. I want to bring it to what we need, work together and provide that need. And there is no division.
Yeah, I want to say thank you for that. And of course, you can say what you say, but I'm entitled to say what I say and what I know for a fact. And I know that North Park is the largest percentage that gets the city a lot of the CDBG funding. I know it for a fact, and we've had plenty of meetings with the county, and we'll be meeting with you. And we want to continue a good relationship. It's bigger than you and I, but again, you're in that position, but the city council has a job also to make sure that they are included when they're voting on different things. They have a right to look at, like you said, process, all of that, all your whole speech.
You know what, the good thing, James, is
wait.
that the city council supports me and the city manager, and there is no in between. So you must understand, as a director of community development, my job title gives me just that.
All right. So you guys need to take this conversation offline and see what, like you said, you guys need.
John, that there's nothing in the budget. So you guys look at the budget also. I'll talk to Monique.
That's what I'm saying. You and Monique should talk, and like she said, based on some data, come up with a needs assessment, and then you guys can come back and talk to us. So
PS youth employment training was funds spent at the MLK Center.
Okay.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Monique. Again, the city has plenty of data. That's why a lot of the funding come in. But we will speak. Thank you so much for this time.
Okay, thanks, James.
James, let's get that lease signed. Come on.
All right, Dave. Any more?
Nope, that was all.
Okay, let's move on to item 11.
Item 11 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for emergency sanitary sewer repair and replacement at West Park Avenue North Side between Grand Boulevard and New York Avenue with the lowest responsible bidder.
Okay, hopefully Joe is still awake.
Yes, I'm still.
No, we hear you, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm here to just talk about, we had a sewer collapse on the north side of Park Avenue between New York and Grand Boulevard. In response, we had our sanitary sewer department go down there, and they set up a bypass between two manholes. Of course, we notified the city council and the city manager of the problem, and police department as well. In response, we also prepared and solicited bids from 4 bidders that we utilize frequently and are excellent contractors. We received bids on April 1st, 2021. The low bidder was Thomas Novelli Contracting at $101,000. The second, third, and fourth bidder was Allen Industries, Banker Construction, and Araz, respectively, at $122,900, $203,250, and $293,600. Thomas Novelli is a respected contractor that we've used frequently. They just recently completed the successful emergency repair of sanitary sewer at the intersection of Lindale Boulevard and Walnut Street. They're also the contractor that was selected and will be starting within the next week on Boyd Street, the reconstruction of Boyd north of Pine. If this is to be awarded tonight, they're going to commence work on Monday, next week, April 12th. As far as the work, it's really a point repair on the 10-inch diameter sanitary sewer main. The entire line is approximately 453 linear feet in length. Our sewer department isolated the break to an area that is approximately 40 linear foot in length. So we're going to be undertaking that work, should this be approved, on Monday, April 12th. Thank you.
All right. Joe, are they going to be scoping the line on either side of the breaks just to see if, anything upstream or downstream is in?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. One of the problems we have is once we have another contract that's held by National Water Main Cleaning Company, and they do our lining of sanitary sewer mains. Unfortunately, once it collapses, it's not an option.
Right.
So my intent here is to actually, once this is repaired, this 40-foot section, is to go in there and have them do a thorough cleaning and camera inspection of that line, and hopefully it's a candidate for lining, and we're going to line the whole 453 feet through that contract. Just to give you an example of how much it would actually cost, that line is 453 linear feet long. The unit price per linear foot in Thomas Novelli's bid is $1,400 per linear foot. So it would cost $1,400 times 453 feet, which I know is over 600,000. I don't have the exact number, but it would be extremely costly. It's about 10 feet down the sanitary sewer. So, this point repair is sort of a Band-Aid in the situation, but we're hoping that once it's repaired, we could clean the line, TV the line, and hopefully it's a candidate for lining.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to fix the 40 feet and then the what's on either side of it's on the risk of collapsing any moment. But point taken. Okay. Any questions from the council? All right. Seeing none, and it's just worth noting, I guess, right now the city's been doing bypass pumping of this to keep the sewage flowing. So somebody's sitting out there at a pump, making sure our sewage keeps flowing and isn't backing up into our toilets. So
yeah, those guys, they do a great job out there. They've been out there for about 2 weeks now. They're working around the clock to make sure that we're operational.
Make sure the West End isn't under a lot of well, you know what.
Yes.
So all right. Seeing nothing from the council. Dave, any from the public?
None from the public.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
And let's move on to item 12.
Okay, item 12 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding offensive miscellaneous. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held April 20th at 7 p.m. Item 13 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 1046 West Beach Street for a sushi restaurant. This item is publication only. Hearing will be held April 20th at 7 p.m. On to the voting. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. We'll start with item number 2. Is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding city physician and health officer. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes. President
Bendo.
Yes.
And item 3 is an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding police surgeon as city physician. Who introduced and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
I will. Whoever.
Who got that?
Give it to Karen.
Okay. Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 4 has already been voted on. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing a settlement agreement between iStar FM Loans LLC and Shore Road Long Beach Superblock LLC and the City of Long Beach. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second. Anyone?
I will.
Thank you. Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
And I'm going to reiterate, this is making $100 million lawsuit go away. Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager, excuse me, to enter into an agreement with Engel Burman at the Beach LLC. Won't you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution fixing and providing for the 2021 season of the Ocean Beach Park. Won't you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
I'm happy to see this. Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Summer's coming. Yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the providing of an electronic beach pass solution. Won't you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
No.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, item 9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager and the city controller to transfer funds for the 2020-2021 budget. Won't you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
No.
Okay. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing annual allocation of community development funds for the 45th program year and a budget amendment to the community development fund for the 44th program year. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And item 11 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for emergency sanitary sewer repair and replacement of the West Park Avenue north side between Grand Boulevard and New York Avenue with the lowest responsible bidder. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yeah.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item, whoops, wrong page. Item 12 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding offenses miscellaneous. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And finally, item 13 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 1046 West Beach Street for a sushi restaurant. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
and President Bendo.
Yes.
Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
and President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So now on to good and welfare. So I think most people know the drill, but you get 3 minutes. And okay, who's up first, Dave?
Kevin Heller.
All right.
Go ahead, Mr. Heller.
Oh, thank you. I have two areas of inquiry if my time allows, so I'll go in order of importance. Ms. McGinnis referred to the preliminary budget a few times tonight. When is that going to be discussed publicly, and when can that be made available to us to review before it's discussed publicly?
So the city council, the charter requires the city council to get the budget by April 10th. The public gets it 10 days later.
Okay, so April 20th. And when is it discussed? Will they be meeting to discuss?
Yeah, there'll be usually there's at least 2 budget hearings where it's discussed and people can provide input.
Great. And I just assume you'll post it on the transparency portal.
Yeah, it'll be up on the website. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. The second, just a question of curiosity, on Broadway between Roosevelt and Pacific, there was a parking lot which is now fenced off. Does anyone know why and what's happening with that parking? There's obviously a serious lack of parking down here as everywhere
Rich,
else.
was that one of the lots we had leased previously?
Yeah,
Mr. Heller, I didn't hear which location was it?
It's on Broadway between Roosevelt and Pacific.
I think it's on the north side of the street, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the 3, Rich.
I think that's the
That's the
Wilson
one by
Avenue
Wilson
lot.
Avenue? If it's the one by Wilson Avenue, then yes, that's one of the privately owned lots that the city discontinued to lease on, Mr. Heller.
Oh, okay. So the owner's taking it back, or we just chose not to lease it anymore?
The owner's taking it back. I believe the owner fenced both lots off, the Broadway lot and the Shore Road lot as well. We've tried to reach out to the owner a couple of times, or a few times actually at this point, more than a few times, to see if they had any interest in leasing the lot to the parking, to basically go into the parking business, but we haven't heard back from them yet.
Well, there's a bunch of kids that love to play roller hockey that are very happy with their decision so far.
And just to recap, Mr. Heller, the city was paying well over $100,000, actually $150,000, I think, to lease the 3 lots from private entities, and was only collecting $50,000 in permit revenues. So it was obviously a significant loss. The council changed the ordinance to allow a private entity to charge fair market value for it, and an opportunity to give the private lot owners an opportunity to make it a profitable business. But they've yet to take the city up on that offer of making it a profitable business.
Well, why didn't we just raise the parking fees? We could have solved that gap.
Well, we
Privately owned.
talked about it. The problem was the city was paying about $1,800 per parking spot and was selling parking passes for them for $50. So that was not a good use of, at least it was determined by the council that was not a good use of taxpayer money, that people that don't use those lots were subsidizing the people that were, which is why we changed the conditions so the owners of the lot could run them profitably. We did put out a call saying if enough people came forward willing to pay what it costs the city, that we would possibly look at it, but it didn't happen. We didn't. We had a few people come forward, but nowhere near enough that would have filled the spots.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Okay. And who's next, Dave?
Or Lester.
All right, welcome back.
Hey, John. 2 things. The transcripts that we keep getting promised, we haven't had a regular, the transcript we can't read since December, and we haven't had a transcript for over a year, the ones we can read. And the law does require them. Doesn't give a time. It says reasonable, and no idea what's happening with that. I keep bringing it up, but we don't seem to get anywhere.
I don't know if Dave, if that's a clerk issue.
The only ones we've generated were the ones out of that we generate out of YouTube. The requirement for it, there's no set requirement on the transcripts. Every village and every city around the state has been doing different things, from just using either the Zoom or the other YouTube transcripts to some have hired stenographers, but that's, again, that would be an expense. We do provide proceedings. We do provide, leave the recordings up, and we do provide minutes for all the meetings plus the agendas.
The
And
law requires a transcript.
yeah, but
Okay.
it doesn't say what type of transcript. It's
Right,
just
but
a
we
transcript.
don't even have the YouTube ones since December.
The rest of them will be put up this week.
Okay. And the other thing, John, you had said at the work session the other day that, the $5 more that we would charge to the firemen and the veterans and the seniors, if we charge $5 more, we'd bring in an extra 50 or 60,000. How many passes do we actually sell? Do you know?
Well, I had that in front of me last week. I don't have it in front of me this time.
Sorry, Roy, what, of which specific type of passes are you referring to?
John was talking about the seniors.
It was the seasonal passes that we charge like $15 for. I think it's veterans, seniors. There was a few categories. And there was enough of them.
Yeah, John, I think if Roy is talking about military, the 2019 total I have in front of me, I don't know if that's what he's looking for.
No, I when you said 50 or 60,000, that means that we'd be selling like 12,500 of those passes, which seemed like an awful big number.
Roy, I have this. I pulled the spreadsheet up on my other screen. And in 2019, we sold 1,691 military passes, and in 2020, we sold 937.
No, but it's also the seniors and all the $15 passes is what we're talking about.
Not the daily passes, the $15 seasonal passes.
Yeah.
The $15 seasonal is like access 769, military 1691. Then you have resident senior 5,350. Those were the ones that were quoted at a $15 price per ticket or price per tag.
All right, so we're talking about 8,000.
8,000, right. Roughly 8,000 and change.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Who's next, Dave?
Next is William Depper.
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm talking to a doctor right now. I'm just asking if the city of Long Beach would allow myself and a sales representative from AHF Pharmacy to hold an HIV testing event here, hopefully in a high traffic area like at the train station or the bus terminal. They're gonna fund the whole event. And they're also going to get Project Safety Net involved too, who does outreach in the communities. I mentioned that earlier. And I feel that doing this testing can draw more attention to ending this epidemic that I've been living with for almost 40 years, as well as bring possible funding or monies into Long Beach. With the COVID-19 affecting every community, especially in the low-coming, in areas, people of color and the Hispanic community, I believe it would really benefit.
Hey, William,
Hold on one second.
Sure, of course.
I attend the National Conference on AIDS. I've gone to DC, Albany, Canada. Last year, I was supposed to go to San Juan to speak, but because of the pandemic, it was canceled. So I'm hoping that they'll make nice donations too to like places like the MLK Center, and hopefully get programs going there. But on the other note, AHF and Project Safety Net has gone to the MLK Center and nobody's there to answer the door. So I agree with Monique. All right, I'll leave it at that because I don't want to start any arguments on here. But for the police commissioner, will you be doing anything about the cars with dark tinted windows? Because 2 of them followed me home a couple of nights and I can't even see the person in the car because the windows are much darker. Years ago, a police officer made me rip it off right in front of him before I could even drive, or he was going to impound my car. I'd like to share the grand emails I receive from the United Way of Long Island each and every week that has many resources in it and available to our community, especially the North Park section. Also, will you be hiring any cops who are in the LGBT family? Because if you want, negotiations between the community and we need everybody. We need somebody who's Asian, somebody who's Black, somebody who's, you know what I'm saying, white. That's also really about it. So thank you for listening.
So Commissioner Walsh, you want to go first on your end and I'll hit the other side?
Yeah, so, I mean, as far as the tinted windows goes, we actually do tinted window enforcement as we come across it. If an officer would have seen that car, I'm sure that motorist would have been pulled over if he wasn't going somewhere else. I mean, our focus is to do exactly that. As we see vehicle and traffic law violations on the street, our enforcement efforts have gone up dramatically over the last month and a half or so, since we're really focusing on that here. We're trying to create an environment and an understanding throughout the city where people can't just come down to the city of Long Beach or even live in the city of Long Beach and not obey the rules and regulations that really affect the quality of life, which is basically what you're referring to there. I don't remember all of the compound questions that you have, Mr. Douglas. So if you could just tell me the other, I think
It was
you had
about hiring LBGT.
Okay, so the hiring stuff that we have, we give out civil service exams. Part of the reform plan that we put in place is to do a much more dramatic and focused attention in our recruitment efforts through houses of worship, through college campuses, through fraternal organizations, to try and attract more minority candidates. We do have an Asian member. We do have African-American members of the department. We have plenty of white members of the department. We have a much greater representation of female officers on our department. And we have most recently hired a member of the LGBTQ community to the department. So we are making great strides in these regards. I'm a firm believer in trying to get our department to be as reflective as we can of society today. And we'll be doing everything we can to drive that message out and to say that we are looking to hire and encourage people of all persuasions to take our exam and become Long Beach police officers.
Okay. And
And
also
William.
the noise from the cars too?
What's that?
Well,
Noise from the cars too?
What do you mean in reference to
Whether
noise?
loud stereos or their mufflers are like, many people warm their cars up in the morning and you hear like boom. And,
Well,
it's
if
annoying.
you have a particular thing that's happening while you're at home, feel free to give us a call. We'll come down and we'll take a listen. If somebody does not have a muffler on their car, there'll be summons for it. That is a section of 375 in the vehicle and traffic law that we'd be happy to enforce. Loud music and things like that and that nature, unreasonable noise. We have written those summonses. I'm not saying that the officers do it every time, because there is and are many things that sometimes it looks like we're not doing something, but we actually are doing something. So yes, I don't particularly feel like we should be able to drive around the city with the music blasting and interfering with other people's right to enjoy a more peaceful and tranquil environment around them. So I hear you in that regard. And I will, there are other members of the department listening in right now, including the executive officer and one of our lieutenants. They're hearing what I'm saying. We're going to focus on what you're saying as we see it.
And
Great,
William,
thank you so much.
William, just on the other fronts, it's John McNally. We've spoken at least a handful of times. I would reach out to me in terms of if you've got a nonprofit partner where you want to set up, an event or some sort of distribution or testing or talking or what have you point. We have an events department that often, if you're working with a hospital or a nonprofit, will waive the fees if the event is considered in the public interest, which generally speaking, what you're talking about would seem to fall within that category. So if you've got that partner available, reach out to me. I'll connect you to our events department, and they can set you up with a space in the city with that nonprofit to carry out the kind of good work that you're talking about and that you envision happening. So, that's absolutely doable, William.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Dave. Anyone else?
Yes, James Hodge.
Okay.
James, go ahead.
Thank you again. Wanted to come to you. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Walsh as we continue to look to work on the Executive Order 203. And we don't need an executive order to understand and recognize the what's going on with communities of color and the police department. It's a continued work. It's a lot of people may not understand if they don't know particular situations that have happened in Long Beach. I'm someone that it has happened to me personally with being assaulted by two officers in the city of Long Beach, which they still work in the city of Long Beach. And I believe, I would think that I would not be the only one, because most times people that have done something one time, they have done it many other times, as we've seen with this officer on trial now. The work that he's talking about, he identifies it. He says we have a problem, we need to fix it. So I commend you in that regard, Commissioner Walsh. It's the work and the action that will take place as we continue working together and looking to see how we do that meaningful work. So again, I thank you for recognizing it and saying it and admitting it. And that's part of it, that sometimes we don't want to recognize where there are issues that we need to fix. And that's one area we definitely need to fix. And it's the system. Systematic and institutional racism exists. And we must, again, rid ourselves of it. And how do we do that? Not just by talking about it, but putting different policies and changing different systems. Also, back to community development. Again, the city's budget. Again, city's community development budget. The money that the city gets from the Stop and Shop grant, which is, I believe, over $100,000. I think that when we talk about communities and how we help communities, they should be in the budget. That's how you see some change in systematic and institutional racism. We can't just talk about these things during election time, and we can't just talk about these things just to talk about them, but it must show in your budgets. It must show in what you're putting money to. So again, whether it's 2,000, 3,000, William, I also say for William that we've met plenty of times. William has done plenty of work with the MLK Center. Through the MLK, we met with his partners. And again, funding is a major thing with mostly all non-for-profits. That's why the city has dedicated some money to some of the non-for-profits that I see here, because all of them have issues just like ours. But again, we ask that you, again, allow your policies and your budgets to reflect the change that we so often speak about, and so again, Commissioner Walsh, thank you for recognizing and looking to change it and speaking about it and talking about it. Again,
James, that's your time.
I'll finish off by saying the last sentence. The North Park gets the city a lot of their low to moderate income funding, a large percent, and let some of the money go back into the largest area that gets it money. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, James.
Just as a quick response, Mr. Hodge, thank you for the compliments. I don't live life here in the rearview mirror. I live life looking forward and with an optimistic look forward. And we are going to make sure that any mistakes of the past are cured in the future. And you have my commitment to doing the best we possibly can within the law to address the needs of the North Park community and the needs of the city in general to make us reflective of the public. You'll also learn as the new geographic policing model is rolled out as the pilot program, as we adjust it, that the North Park community will be receiving a lot more community-oriented style policing, and really, no part of this city will see less policing. They will see more policing, more community outreach, and more trust building than we've ever experienced before. So thank you very much.
Hi, if I can add something, I wanted to talk about the community development. For years, the city has been giving out what we consider public service funds to nonprofits in the amount from the minimum of $4,000 to $20,000. That has been distributed inappropriately. According to Nassau County, we are only capped at 15% of what we receive in to give out to public services. Martin Luther King and other nonprofits that are on this call have received those funds. What has been the problem is that when it comes time to report the HUD funding from the community development grants, that there is no results that have been reported accurately, meaning to be able to identify who's completely benefiting from it. We need to move away from one person being able to say the needs of a community and having data to document it so that we are providing to that 6.9% who are considered low to moderate income and that we are meeting their needs. Now, James Hodge doesn't allow us to forget North Park, and we understand that North Park is here, but there are others in the city that are in need as well. And how do we create that is by identifying everybody that is in need and providing services to them. Now, we provide these public services, but in as return, it still acts on what the city is doing. So at this time, the city itself can also provide public services, and we do it based on that process. And that is going to be the change moving forward. And I think we need to think about that. Now, nonprofits have their own sustainability, and that means that their budgets, their operations have to be aligned where they can provide a service because they're saying they're meeting the needs too. The only way to do this is not to compete, but to collaborate and to identify the needs. And from my experience, not one person, not one organization can identify the needs of a community. So there's a way and there's a platform that has been created for people to voice it. It is through meetings, it is through talking, and it's to get into data. So I urge everyone to complete the community needs assessment, to be active, to voice their needs, because funds are aligned, but it's not just to one community. Yes, North Park is very crucial. I applied to be there, I work there, and I understand that. However, we need to move forward with that mindset that is all access all. So James, I understand your concerns, and the money that you're talking about is called urban development. It is not called community development. So first we need to understand the terminology so that we're saying the right thing and not wait till when there's a public platform to communicate, because I've been here, I've communicated. Now here we're saying you're asking and you're saying funds, but we are still not even understanding what process is, and we don't even have a lease. So these are things that we're saying was process. And if you have any further, you can reach out to me, and let's not wait to this public forum to communicate that.
Okay, so let's move on. This is about just helping getting the services to the people that need it. So that's what we should all be working towards. So all right, Dave.
She was the last hand.
That was the last hand. Okay, so all right, everyone, thanks for joining us. And Liz, you lost on the over under. You thought we were going to go past 10.
No, I said 10.
And
what'd she say?
10.
10. Wow.
So, all right, but everyone, thanks for joining us, and we will see you